my dad was actually murdered. And that was the tragic event in my life that reshaped everything. Me and my dad were really close, but he also was in and out of jail as I was growing up. And, that was really hard on me. I guess it didn't necessarily affect our relationship because, again, we were always close. I got a call from my uncle and he asked me, had I talked to my dad? And I was like, no, but he called me and I'm going to call him back. And he was like, well, you can't call him back because he passed away.
Talk to some of those women who deal with that internal rejection or even that imposter syndrome.
Everything that you're supposed to be doing on this earth, you already have within. I definitely understand imposter syndrome because there are a lot of people who think I'm amazing and wonderful. You hear my story, like, oh, this is so amazing. And I'm not doing something over here with my kids.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode and another season of the Woman Witness podcast on the Woman Witness TV network. I'm your host, Leah Fortier. Here on this platform, we bring to you voices of dynamic women that are out there making a positive impact in their life, in their family, and the community around them. Women of faith, women of resilience, women who have battled through something, and they are bold enough, strong enough to turn around, grab the hand of another sister, and be a witness. Guys, I am so excited to introduce to you my guest today, Miss Jasmine Robinson. She is a nonprofit founder, an author, and a community development professional based out of Houston, Texas, my home state. Jasmine is a founder and executive and a director of Collegiate Moms Coalition, a 501(c)(3) organization expanding educational access to support student mothers in higher education. Her work spans with nonprofit leadership, corporate partnerships, public policy advocacy, including work with the Texas state capitol alongside former U.S. Senator Wendy Davis. She is also the author of From a Small Seed to a Big Dreams Blooms. Today, she is here to talk about faith, purpose, experiences, and how all of that intercepts and God uses the unexpected seasons such as motherhood, delay, rejection to shape our calling and our leadership. I am so excited to introduce to you my guest today, Miss Jasmine Robinson. Hey, Jasmine, welcome to the well. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm super excited. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Jasmine. Excited about what you are doing, what you started, and just all the work that you are doing. And you are a mom, and you created a platform for other moms to pursue higher education and carry out their dreams. So I love that. I cannot wait to kind of jump into it. I see your shirt. I love it. How to make sure that everybody else can get one too. But before we get going and before I continue to talk, I want to give you the floor. I want you to take us back to the season in your life where you felt like this unexpected or this disruptive event in your life. What was happening and how did you find the faith to carry out?
Yeah, so I always like to start back when I was in high school. I am the product of teen parents. And so being a teen mom for me was almost like I fell into a cycle. That's how it felt initially. And so being from Houston, Texas, I grew up in Hiram Clark and I went to Madison High School. And so I spent, my life in Houston. And so my senior year of high school, my dad was actually murdered. And that was the tragic event in my life that reshaped everything. Me and my dad were really close, but he also was in and out of jail as I was growing up. And, that was really hard on me, but I guess it didn't necessarily affect our relationship because, again, we were always close. He had left me a voicemail and he called me, I didn't answer. He left me a voicemail and I deleted it. And I wasn't upset with him or anything. I was like, I'm going to call him back. I just was being a teenager. thinking I'm gonna call him back. And then I'll never forget, I was getting ready for church at my best friend's house, and, I got a call from my uncle, and he asked me had I talked to my dad, and I was like, "No, but he called me, and I'm gonna call him back." And he was like, "Well, you can't call him back because he passed away." And I was like, "Do you think he passed away just because you haven't seen him? Because you know my dad can, be a little tricky sometimes." And he was like, "No, Granny went and identified him at the morgue." And before I could hit the ground, my best friend, she actually passed away as well, ran in and she grabbed me before I could hit the ground. I didn't even know that I had
That you were collapsing.
passed. I didn't even know.
Mhm.
And that event is what kinda led me to when I went to college. I ended up getting pregnant my sophomore year, at the age of 19, and it was like, I don't know, something just in me changed or transformed in that moment because I was looking for love, I think, and, I actually was going to go get birth control and then found out I was pregnant again with my second daughter. That's why they're so close in age. They're 16 and 15, 17 and 15 right now, about to be 16 and 17. And so I just knew like I have to make it. I didn't care really. I don't want to say I didn't care about me, but I knew I cared about them way more than I cared about myself and my well-being. When I graduated, I know I'm kinda going back and forth, but when I graduated high school, I graduated top 10% of my class, and I've always been in advanced classes. I was a cheerleader, I did NJROTC, I was a platoon leader, so I had my own class period, where I taught class, and, so I've always been, like, a scholar and really good in school, but my freshman year after that happened with my dad, um, I had a 1.8 GPA, and just was not going to class. I was just partying and being out. And I like to always tell people, like, I was a virgin until I went to college. I wasn't out doing whatever. But again, that event changed my mindset. And so, but my children got me back on the right track. And I always say that that I'm thankful and blessed to have had them so mainly because I'm able to connect with them in a way that I feel like I probably would not have been able to connect with them before. Just growing up together is just a little different than being an older parent, which is nothing wrong with it. There's pros and cons to both. But
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
not embarrassed or ashamed that
Yeah.
them young and that, I was able to successfully start my nonprofit during that time. I developed the only pageant in the world specifically for college moms because I was denied pageant entry. They wouldn't allow me because I had kids. And then they also went on to tell me that you can't have had an abortion, you can't have ever lived with anyone, you can't be married, and you can't be divorced in order to participate in the university pageants. And so that's what made me start that. And every single woman who went through my scholarship pageant graduated college. I didn't know at the time that less than 2% of teen moms graduate college before the age of 30. I had 2 degrees by the time I was 23. And so with my kids. So, I'm a champion of education. And for me, I felt that was my only way out. I learned so much. I built up a huge network of people. I was able to impact so many other college moms' lives who they would come and tell me, like, I never thought, like, there would be a group of us. I always thought I was alone in this.
Alone.
That's
Mm.
what they thought. And, we packed out the auditorium both years with the scholarship pageant. I was on the front page of the newspaper for the university. And, it became a movement. And I realized, oh, we really have something here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, this is it.
yeah, we're almost like an unseen population in a way because if I had not done the pageant, I don't think I ever would have connected with anyone else who was a mom on campus. Um, I didn't know any. I always thought I was alone, even though I know that's not a realistic thing. I just thought I was until these ladies started coming out in droves in order to participate. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, like this is really crazy. Um, and
I
it's
love
really
it.
just carried on from there where now I host financial literacy classes. We do resume building workshops. We do professional dress seminars. I host celebration of womanhood events. I do all sorts of things in the community. I give diapers and all sorts of supplies for when they're having a baby, just whatever. I do emergency micro grants for them as well. I recently just did 12 of them, 12 $100 grants for moms who lost their SNAP benefits during the government shutdown. I just try to be what I wish I had when I was in school and just continue to do that and pour into them, as best as I can. And, they know I'm always a phone call away for whatever it is that they need. I just helped one lady get a laptop from another nonprofit leader that I know. I connected them and I'm like, she needs a laptop in order to work. And I was able to provide her with emergency funds because she ran out of SNAP benefits as well. And so, it's those stories that I think are so important to understand that you're not alone. And in this political climate, there are a lot of people who are suffering. And so it's now more than ever, organizations like myself and multiple other nonprofit directors and founders that I know, we're very critical at needing to bridge that gap where typical resources are.
Let me ask you, Jasmine, before you go into that, because I have a feeling that that is going to be a really key point of what you're out here doing. I want to ask you something. And hold on, can I just highlight a couple things that you said?
Yeah, for sure.
You said that I love how you said that turning point for you was when you had your babies. And I think for a lot of women out there who may feel like, oh my gosh, it's over for me, especially if you grew up in some of those households like I did, and they tell you, oh, once you have a baby, it's done, right? So I love how you said that that redirected you. If you can just give a little soundbite real quick for some young moms out there right now who feel like it's over, I can't go on. Can you just give us a little soundbite real quick?
Yeah, if first off, it's only the beginning. This is the start. Your life has not started. I don't wanna say your life has not started until you've had children, but however, there is a new birth that is happening within you when you give birth to children. That is just the truth. And so my mission is quite literally education and motherhood go hand in hand. You should not have to choose. You should not have to choose at all. That's so unfair to make women feel as if they can't multitask because we are known for that.
Yes, we are.
Power.
Yes, we are. Come on,
Yeah.
Proverbs 31 woman. Um, let me ask you, how do you define purpose now compared to how you defined it earlier in life?
I think now I've realized that my purpose came from pain. My purpose was I realized it was the thing that I would do over and over again without a single dollar, without any sort of accolade, without any sort of acknowledgement. I would continue to do the work that I do because I know there are people who need it. So I don't need to be on a big stage in order to help someone. And women in particular, what people forget is that we birthed the nation. I always say this funny thing whenever I'm doing speaking engagements, but for the men in the room. If I see men in the room, I'm like, oh, I have to bring this up because sometimes I think that I don't feel that men don't can't naturally connect to it. However, even women who don't have children, always say, raise your hand if you were born in a petri dish or you were made in a petri dish. And people were like, and I'm like, all right, raise your hand if you came from somebody's uterus. And everybody's hand should be raised because everybody came from someone's uterus. And no matter how you identify, that is just a biological fact that you came from someone's uterus. So this is everyone's problem. This is not just a male problem or a women with children problem or just women who are educated problem. It's not something that affects us all because we birthed the nations. And if the mom is food insecure, her child is going to be food insecure. If the mom is uneducated, her children are more than likely going to be uneducated, or it's going to be really hard for them to climb the ladder because they don't have that home base. And so we all need mentors. So even if it's not your mother, someone needs to be mentoring. And so, but I use that analogy just because I think that it opens people's minds to understanding that this is everyone's issue.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's real good, Jasmine. What does it look like to lead from a faith base, especially when it comes to making sure that it's clear to you or clear to everyone?
Mhm. I think that in everything that I've done, not even think I know, in everything that I've done, I would be nothing without God. I would be nothing without faith. I remember being in college and I was really struggling with all the different classes during undergrad. And it would make me emotional, and sometimes I would feel like, "Man, I don't know if this is worth it." Like, this is really hard, like, trying to work multiple jobs and then show up for my kids and then show up in school and then try to have some sort of social life, and I would cry in my closet. That's where I would go, and at the time, I think this was before the War Room movie had come out, but I used to be in there, and that is really where I used to fight my battles, like, and this is 1,000% where I found my safe space, is I would go in there, I would cry, scream, do whatever I need to do, and then I would come out on the other side and perform and just
Where
get
did that
it
come
done.
from, Jasmine?
Where did my faith come from?
Yeah.
So funny enough, whenever I lived with my grandmother, and I wanna say I was in no, elementary school, um,
Mhm.
we had a church in the back, like, quite literally, her fence was shared with our church.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah, that's nice.
when
Yeah.
I would be in the bed at night and they're having choir rehearsal, I could hear them singing,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's how I would go to sleep. And
Wow.
and so
Wow.
I gave my life to Christ. I wanna say I don't remember how old I was. I think I was probably like 11 or so, and that's when I got baptized. I actually got rebaptized at the end of 2025, at that same church. Well, they moved locations, but it's the same church. So, I don't know if you've heard of the Fountain of Praise, but that's my church. It was South Post Oak Baptist Church, and so I've always been in church. My grandmother instilled that into me from a very young age, and so I've always even when so I had a sister who passed away from cancer, and she's almost 2, and, my I would read the Bible to my mom, like, all the time, and she'd be like, "Where did you get this from? Where did you learn?" Like, and I'm like, "I don't know, I've just always felt like I had a connection with God. I've just always felt that way, and that was my refuge when things would get tough. And so, like, even with, losing my dad, and that's actually how I got into public speaking, oddly enough. I had a who passed away, and my grandmother was like, "You're gonna speak at her funeral," and she was a pastor's wife, so it was imagine the church is packed, hundreds,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm in middle school, and I'm like, "Oh my god, you want me to go up here and speak?" She was like, "Come on, Jasmine," because I was always writing poems, and I had these notebooks that were just filled with poems that I wrote. My daughter actually just found one. We were cleaning up the garage, and she started reading it, and I was like, "No, don't." And she was like, "These are actually
Oh,
really good. Are these original?" And she was like, "You wrote cover to cover." And I'm like, "Girl, I was in the
I love that. I remember them days.
church." I really got into it, and so
Yeah.
it became a thing, and I know it sounds morbid, but every time someone would die in the family, my grandma would be like, "You need to go speak, you gotta speak," and I'm like, "Why is this a thing?" But that's kinda how I got into
Training you, getting you ready.
I didn't realize it, but I've always been able to perform even when I was in pain, even when it was really tough to get, and so for me, when people ask, "Are you afraid when you have to get up and you have to speak in front of people?" I'm like, "Honestly, no," because I've had to speak in some really, really tough situations. And starting off with you've lost a loved one, and, like, this was my favorite aunt, and she actually died from an aneurysm. She was teaching a class and just passed out. And so, and it happened to her twice, and that second time she just didn't come back. And so, when you have lived through so much death and just so many things that people can perceive as negative, and you start to think, why is this happening to me? But the reality of it is it's happening for you regardless of how you may see it in the moment, everything on this earth is happening for you. And you're always going to end up exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm a firm believer in that. So that setback is always a setup for the comeback. We know this.
Yes. Yes.
So I
Yes.
try to just be positive, and my friends, some of them, they're like, "Oh, you're just annoyingly positive sometimes. I wanna be mad in this moment, but you're
Yeah.
making me, feel like a different way. I don't wanna be happy." And I'm like,
Let them use you, Jasmine. People need that energy. I think so often we can go into our own little silos and be negative or be sad, but God will send a Jasmine around to snatch you right out of it. Let, let me ask you how look. Oh my gosh. So let me ask you how has God used rejection or closed doors to refine your leadership and also your vision?
I always tell people, if you get a no, you're just asking the wrong person. Keep going until you get the yes, because the yes is where you're supposed to be. That no is protecting you from something. And even if it's a no today, it could just be a not right now, because I've definitely had some full circle moments with people. And to be honest and to be fair with some of this too, I've realized to not take things so personally when someone tells me no, and internalize it, but I am a firm believer in watching how people treat the people they think that they don't need. That's very important. And
Yeah.
because I've noticed sometimes when people see you in a different light or on a different stage, the attitude shifts. When they see, and when you're revealed to them and they see what you carry, the attitude can shift. And it's just important to have a good memory because it doesn't mean you don't give them grace, but it's important because that reveals character. And I want people around me who genuinely have good character, from the way you treat the CEO to the janitor. I need it to be the same. So, those are the type of people I like to keep around me. And, you know, again, I've had some no's, and then I've had some, "Oh, girl, I'm so sorry. I didn't see that message that you sent me, but I saw you doing your thing on stage and I love it." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
mental note,
Yeah,
check, got it.
I'm clocking you, but it's
Yeah.
okay."
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
So
see what kinda energy you want.
yeah, but I thank God for that, because I walk into rooms and I pray before I go in. God, hide me from people who do not need to see the greatness in me. Hide me from them. Seriously, hide me in plain sight. I want them to treat me as if I am regular degular. Let them do that. You know what I mean? Everyone does not need to see the anointing or the oil on your life. They don't, because they will drain you and take from you and prey on you. You think they're praying for you, but they are praying on you.
On you.
And
That's
so,
good.
in
Yep.
thinking of what they can get, and so in everything I lead with reciprocity. How can I help you? What can I do to be a vessel for you as well? It's not just about me taking, taking, taking. I am a giver. And that is why my book, From a Small Seed, Big Dreams Bloom, it's all about planting those seeds. And so a lot of times people will see, "Oh, how did you get that opportunity?" And I'm like, "Baby, I planted that seed 20 years ago. That
Come
didn't just
on.
happen overnight." There are people who
Yeah.
remember me from years ago who pop in and they're like, "I had such a good experience with you. Like, I'd love to help. I see what you're doing." And so again, even if it's a no today, it could just be a not right now, because I've seen it time and time again where things just come full circle. But one of the things I always say is that your character is going to walk into a room well before you ever do. And it's not about what people say in front of you, it's about what people say when you're not around. And so I think it's important that I always lead with being genuine, that I'm kind to people that I meet, and that I'm someone that will reciprocate energy, and reciprocate resources. And so I'm very proud of that, because I love to be able to lift it. I like to lift as I climb. Per
Yeah.
se.
Say it one more time, Jasmine. You
I
like
like
to
to
do
lift
what?
as I climb.
Interesting. I love that. I love that. I don't think I've ever heard that. Jasmine, what I like about what you I love so much about what you said, but I love what you said when you walk into a room at you ask God to just hide me from those people who do not need to see the anointing of my life. I think that is so beautifully said. For some of those women who are listening right now and they're like, okay, well, Jasmine, I have had rejection. And every time I try to do this, it doesn't work. Or every time the people say that they're going to help me, they don't help me. Talk to some of those women who deal with that internal rejection or even that imposter syndrome. Like, how can I walk into this? I'm just me. Talk to some of those women.
I always say you being yourself is enough. You are enough. Everything that you're supposed to be doing on this earth, you already have within in you. Whoever you're supposed to attract, you will attract them to be a resource for you. And so I definitely understand imposter syndrome because there are a lot of people who think I'm amazing and wonderful. They hear my story like, "Oh, this is so amazing. I love it." And today I just may feel like I'm not worth, all of that is like I'm failing in this area. I'm failing in that area of my life. If I'm doing great over here doing a speaking engagement, I'm not doing something over here with my kids. So, there's always gonna be this imbalance in life, and I'm a person who definitely goes through seasonal depression, and I don't even know if that's the right thing to call it, but there are just days where I don't wanna get out of bed, and it's not that anybody did anything to me. I think it's that over time, when you've experienced so many different things in life, sometimes you can feel like things are too good to be true, or you're just waiting for the next bad thing to happen, or, it's a domino effect of things. And, I definitely am one who has struggled with my mental health. Just again, even if you do any sort of research on this for single mothers, we are dealing with a lot mentally. I mean,
Yeah.
overstimulation at an all-time high. Like, even with
Oh.
me having older kids, I still have to worry when they leave or I always
Mm.
describe it as when you have a kid, it's like your heartbeat outside of your body.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
how it feels.
Good.
Like,
Yeah.
always wanting to protect them, always wanting to be there, and you just can't. They're gonna go through heartbreaks, they're going to go through setbacks, they're gonna deal with a lot of things, discrimination, all sorts, because I'm raising 2 Black daughters.
Yeah.
So, that can be a lot, and there are women really out here struggling with all sorts of things. And so, imposter syndrome is just a part of it. I think that when you change your mind, you change your life. And you just have to leave it on the altar because there are so many things I promise you when I walk into church on Sundays that I'm worried about, thinking about. And then when I go up there and they anoint my head with oil and we sit at the foot of the stage, I just leave it there. Of the altar, I just leave it.
That's not mine no
It's not
more.
mine. It's not mine to carry
Mm-mm.
because I can't. I can't
Yeah.
do it. So when
Yeah.
things happen to me, people are like, "Oh," or again, happening for me, people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, like, what are you gonna do?" Like I got let go from my job in November. I've
Mm.
been working since I was 16. And
Yeah.
so the reaction was, "Oh my god, no. What are you gonna do?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel relieved.
Oh, right. I needed that up off me. I already know.
I'm like, I feel relieved. I'll be okay. I can always go and get another job. The thing that rings true is that I have 2 degrees. I have 12 years of experience in health tech. I can always go and get a job. But now this is a season where I can focus on my nonprofit. I can focus on my own business doing consulting. I just started thinking of all the things that I was only
Waiting to do.
right. I was only
Yeah.
operating at 5% of what I could really do when I had a job because my job was taking up so much of my time. And I'm like, if I can do all of this with my nonprofit while having a
Mm.
full-time job, imagine what I can do without this job.
Stop it.
And so
I
I'll
know
be
that's right.
okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I cried a little bit the first day, but mainly because it's like I had a mix of emotions. Obviously, nobody wants to feel rejected, that's part of it. But then I was just like, I'm not rejected, I'm protected. Like they didn't let me go, they set me free.
Right.
I'm all about the reframe, like King Thomas
Right.
says, I reframe
Exactly.
it and I'm like, hey, now I have time to relax. I don't wake up with anxiety. I'm not on anybody's timeline but my own. I am able to talk and speak more clearly to God and listen to what He wants me to do. I'm able to attend events and further expand my network, and the job will come. It will come if that's what it's supposed to be. But I know God has never left me. Me and my kids have never been on the street. I've always had a job. And my mom was like, your name should be Jasmine. Keep a job, Robinson, because you stay working, you stay
I
having a job,
know.
and I'm like, "I know," and I've been in the
Thank you,
hamster
Jesus.
wheel forever,
Yeah.
and so it's nice to just be able to be and
Yeah.
exist and go to the movies on a random Tuesday by yourself.
Mhm.
like,
Uh, I
matinee
love it.
time. It's just
Right.
and without asking someone, "Can I take time off? Is it okay? Can I go do this?" It's nice to just not have to do that. And
Yeah.
so, it's
Yes, I love it. I love it. And if you think about it, that closed door had to happen because you probably would have never went in there and said, "I'm done.
yeah.
I'm
No,
done.
I
Here's what
wasn't.
you do." Yeah. So
I
those
kept
closed
I
doors had
kept
to
saying it in my head, "I'm gonna leave,
right.
I'm
You
leaving,
like,
I'm
this the
leaving."
last day at this job. But thank you for the closed door. I know that's right. Let me ask you, I want you to talk. So we were talking a little bit about this, about the changes and the different things that you're advocating for mothers, for collegiate moms. So how did becoming a mother shape your understanding of leadership and responsibility that made you want to just start advocating and making a path for other moms, even in that political space?
I think it's just because of everything I experienced. So whenever I had my first daughter, I went to do my last before I had her, I went to do my last checkup and the doctor was like, "Oh, your blood pressure is high." And I was like, "Huh." And she was like, "Yeah, I think you might have walking toxemia, but to be sure, we're just going to tell you to go over to the hospital." And my hospital is attached to my doctor's office. So I went over, they hooked me up to all these machines, and then the lady was like, "We don't wanna wait for, the blood results to come back. We're just gonna give you a C-section." And I'm like, "What?" And, yeah, come to find out that she wanted to go on vacation. That's why she gave me the C-section. She ended up getting sued and lost her practice for doing that, for giving unwarranted C-sections. And so going through that, like that was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced, mainly because I had really bad postpartum and didn't know it. I was struggling to connect with my daughter because it was like 1 minute I was pregnant and the next minute they brought a baby from around the sheet. And I didn't feel anything. I didn't have any contractions. They didn't do any of that. Just cut
This is your second daughter?
the first daughter.
Oh, first. Okay, okay.
Mhm. And so by the second daughter, I had a new doctor and she was like, "No, we don't do VBACs, we're not gonna let you have a vaginal birth." And as she was cutting me open for the second C-section, and she's a great doctor, by the way, but I remember her saying, "Oh, you could have had a vaginal birth. You healed so well from the first C-section." And I just cried on the table.
So, like, why did you have to tell me
Yeah, you
that?
didn't have
Like,
to
at
tell me,
least yeah.
and
Mhm.
so those moments as well caused me to understand that, that's a very risky surgery. And to put anybody through that and not give them an opportunity to even try to have, the baby in the natural way, it's very important for us to advocate for ourselves. But also, what I realized is that it was my first child. My mom and grandmother, they were terrified because they're like, "You're so young, you're having a baby. Let's just do what the doctor says. Just do what they tell you to do." So a lot of us do that. But as Black women, and both of my doctors were Black women, by the way,
Okay.
which
Yes, that's
to
good.
me
Yeah.
was even more, I guess, hurtful because I'm like, why aren't we also having healthcare providers that are advocating for this, Um, and so I just realized like policies need to change. I realize that there are so many different things that are happening, even right now, where you can't even go get an abortion if you need to. You don't even have the right to choose. And there are going to be a lot of unwanted pregnancies. And it's even sadder when they say if you get assaulted, you still have to have the child, like, in certain states. And so, even being a grown adult myself, if that happens to me, it's like fiscally, I can afford it. I can go and fly somewhere and do what I need to do, but everyone doesn't have that ability. And so when you're cutting resources like Planned Parenthood, where they're like, all we could do is give you a bus voucher, if you get pregnant, and then you're putting rules in place like after I think what is once you see a heartbeat, like they can't do anything about it, but that's within you don't find out that you're pregnant until you're already almost like 4 weeks along. And you only live until about 6 weeks before the heartbeat comes. So you do the math. It's like emergency. It's an emergency that happens, and you're like, I don't like what am I gonna do? You don't even so that whole idea, and this is why collegiate moms is so important as well, because now we're taking away the right to choose, and then you already have families saying you can't do both. You got to get a job. You can't go to school and do. You need to pick. What are you going to do? But now you don't even have that option really, unless you are financially able to do it. And so policies are very important. How we vote is so important. And I'm not a person who's just super into politics, but I definitely got way more into politics once I started realizing how these things actually affect us. Because when I saw Planned Parenthood out in front of the Capitol and they were saying bans off my body, I was like, they're never going to take away abortion rights. Like, I didn't realize how serious it was until they did. And so, advocating for who your policymakers are is important. Going and voting is important. And just understanding what's happening at a local level, if not for nothing, you know, the whole election right now with worrying about who the president is that does affect us. However, this local stuff is really
It
what affects
really affects us,
in
correct.
your backyard.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I like that, Jasmine. And so I love the fact that you're out there and you're talking to and you're teaching other young women and young moms about politics. And as you said, it is very important. And sometimes we do overlook. Most times, a lot of us overlook what is going on in our backyard because we're too busy focusing on everything else, and that's what society kinda shows us too, right? I mean, you turn on the news, you see one thing. So I like what you're doing. Let me ask you, what is some spiritual lessons, did motherhood teach you, that you could not have learned any other way?
It taught me to just hold on to faith. It taught me that when you're in the valley, the hill is on the way. You just have to hold on. And then when you're at the top of the hill, you look back and you're like, "Man, I could barely see the valley that I was previously in." It's kinda it becomes one of those things where you're like, "Man, I remember when I was going through all of these things," but it's just a memory. I feel like it makes you way more thankful when you have a story to tell. So, the famous saying of, you don't have a testimony without a test. That's just
Yes.
it.
Yep. Yep.
And so being reminded that God will never leave you, that he's always there, he's always with you, whether you're in the church or not. God is within us. And so I walk with that and I find confidence and comfort in that when I talk to other women who are going through things because you wouldn't believe how many women I've met who have lost their jobs. We do know that over 300,000 Black women, at least that's what's reported so far, have lost their jobs. And so
Just in the last, what, few years, right?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
But then what's scarier about that is I think the statistic is like 60%, 69% of households, the woman is the breadwinner. So it's like, imagine who that's affecting when you lose your job and you don't have a savings and you never thought to put money aside for a rainy day. Or maybe you just are living paycheck to paycheck, right? Like, that's why all of these things are so important. And I would just challenge anyone who has a LinkedIn or because I get a lot of messages on there. I just got one this morning with someone inquiring about a job. They're like, "Hey, I see you worked at this place. Would you mind hopping on the call with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And when I was working, all three of the jobs that I've transitioned through, in tech, I've always helped other people get jobs. I've always, even if they didn't know me, use me as a referral, and I will reach out to the talent acquisition manager. I don't get any money from this. I'm just doing this because I understand how important it is to be able to feed your family. You know, that's important. And so, even on my last day, as I was logging out, two of the young ladies who I helped get hired at my job, they both messaged me and they were like, "Hey, we made it. We got the job." And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh.
that's awesome." And then they
That's
kicked me out of the system, and I was like, "Well,
At least I got that testimony, dude.
yes,
Yeah,
and
you doing
that's a
something right.
testament." Yeah, right.
Right.
That's the testament of helping other people and just, again, lifting as you climb, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, I just think that's so important.
It is. Let me ask you, and I love what you said. You said you love helping people. And I mean, I love that statement. I think so many of us don't get that. We just feel like, people are there to help us, right? Not we're there to actually serve. I think even the Bible it says those who are great, they must first be a servant, something along those lines. And but I love that concept because we do have to serve. We do have to help people. We need to want to do that. And then God will and then help us and send people to help us. He'll send us our village. Let me ask you, how do you remain grounded through all of this? Especially when you're operating in the corporate, civic, and policy, environmental spaces.
Mhm. I think remaining grounded just comes from me staying connected with my family and understanding what's actually important and just controlling what you can control, right? Like none of us are above the program. Like all of us are going to have hard times. We're all going to have tragedies. We're all going to have all sorts of things happening to us. However, I just feel like if you remain positive, if you realize that seasons always change. They never stay the same. It cannot rain forever. It's just impossible. That's not a real thing, you know? And I know it sounds very cliche, but the sun does come out. Even if it's not tomorrow, it's coming out eventually, you know?
It's go
And so I will
joy comes in the morning.
right, like I will never forget that little girl who wished to be where I am today. And I think being able to reconnect with my younger self and being able to remember the different stages I was in my life. I remember I'm in my house. I've wanted a house since I found out I was pregnant. I was like, "Oh my god, I want to get a house for me and my kids." And I thought I would do that through marriage. I'm divorced, but I thought I would do that with my husband, and that wasn't what God's plan was. I ended up living in Austin with him, and then whenever I separated, I moved back here, and so I'm in Sharon now by Pearland, and
Oh, yeah.
um, so I know you know.
I know that's that. Yes.
Yeah, and so I always thought I had to have a husband in order to get a house. That's what
Yep.
I thought, and a friend of mine, he was like, "Girl, you can get that house by yourself. You better go and apply and all this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I don't think I can do it." He was like, "You can do it." And he really encouraged me. And my aunt ended up being my realtor and we came out. I saw this house. I ended up getting the last house on the block. And this was mine. I was like, I know this is my house.
It was
This
a
is the one.
dream
When I
house.
walked in, I was like,
Yeah.
yes, this is the house
Oh,
that I want. And
yeah.
so the way God works is whenever I was in there signing my papers, there was another couple and they ran in. This is right around COVID. And they ran in, they were like, "We want the house." And they were like, "Oh, sorry. She's already signed."
Oh, no.
That's how it was just meant, you know? And so I think about that young girl who was crying on the floor in the closet, and asking for these things and wanting these things, and I'm on the other side of that. I have my education, I have experience, I have a successful nonprofit, I have so many amazing people in my life, and there are rarely days where I need to cry. There are rarely days where I'm yelling to the heavens, and so I'm thankful for that. And even with depressive moods and things like that, I'm a Cancer, so I'm moody anyway. And so
Yeah,
yeah,
we're okay. You're
so,
okay, right.
I
Yeah.
started taking some vitamin D, and I'm like, "I think my vitamin D is just low."
Kinda like me.
I mean, I've been working from home since 2015, 2016. So for me, it's like, I need some sun. I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. So yeah,
I
that's
love that.
how I remain grounded. I think it's just reconnecting back to where I was and being thankful for where I am today and realizing it could be way worse. It always,
Yeah. Let me ask you, through everything, Jasmine, what season do you think really stretched you the most?
you know, I think the season that stretched me the most, if this even is a season, is like the drought season where you're just like, I feel like nothing is growing. I'm out here really, again, planting all these seeds. I'm not seeing, I'm not reaping a harvest right now. And like, how do I connect that, to being positive? And I think in those seasons, because I went through them so young, it caused me to just be creative. I always tell people I had 5 jobs. Like at one point I had 5 jobs and people think that that is a joke. I'm like, "No, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I was doing."
Wait, at one time?
At one
Okay. All right. Okay. Just trying to figure this out. I'm trying to see.
now, now, 2 of them were W-2 jobs. The other ones were side hustles, and I did not play. I had a full-time job at school. And that was during the day. I was a cashier, and, I also, like, cleaning the kitchen. I was doing all types of stuff. Um, and then overnight, I took care of people with mental disabilities. And so I was wiping butts, like, quite literally, taking care of 5 grown men in a house by myself, cooking their meals, doing everything. And then I would write papers for people. So while I was there at the house, while the guys were sleeping, I would be writing papers for people. I know that's not legal, but that's what I had a
Listen,
I had a
listen.
friend who graduated. She said, "My degree should say Jasmine and Mary on it because you wrote all my papers." Like, yeah, I was getting paid $100 a paper. I'll write papers for people, and I'd be like, "Do you want an A, B, or C?" And depending on what you want, that's the
There's
cost.
levels to
And everybody wants an A, so they're gonna pay the $100. So yeah, I was writing papers for people. I also did hair, and then I sold purses from inside my house. So I would drive to Harwin. You know where Harwin is? I would get all the little fake purses and all that stuff, and so as I'm doing hair, I would have all the purses laid out, and people were like, "Ooh, that's a cute Gucci bag." Mhm. Yeah. So I saved with money, and then I actually would cook food at my house and provide plates in between classes, so all my friends would come to my house because they're like, "Jasmine's gonna cook," because I grew up cooking since I was little, and so, I've always been one to leverage my skills in times where, I didn't know where the next dollar was gonna come from. And so you get creative and you figure it out. And all I know is that my kids have to eat. I know my kids need shoes. I know they need clothes. And so I've never been someone who was embarrassed to get government assistance. I always tell people, go get your SNAP benefits. I have my SNAP benefits now. I apply for unemployment. Do whatever you got to do because at the end of the day, like for me, the way that I look at it, it's my money. I've been working since I was 16. So I'm doing what I need to do so that me and my kids can eat. And I'm never embarrassed. I actually had someone ask me that. Are you embarrassed? That you have to pull out your SNAP benefit card in order to pay. Before he could finish, I said, embarrassed? Embarrassed about what? What would be embarrassing is if I didn't feed my kids because I was embarrassed of what other people thought. The only thing I care about is what my kids think. If their
Amen.
stomach
Yeah.
is rumbling at night, that's what I care
Mm,
about. I don't care
right.
anything about that, and I know a lot of people who work full time, I was one included, who wish they had a SNAP benefit card. So,
Right.
never
Yeah.
am I embarrassed to take the help that I
That's
earned.
what it is for. It's for help. Right.
That's what it's here for,
Right.
and I've always been a tax-paying citizen, so to
Right.
me, I've been helping other people eat, so why should I not eat? You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely. I love that. And I think you're right. I think there is a stigma around that, if you will, but that's what it's there for. It's there for assistance and to help and that's all that matters. So I love what you said. I hope it encourages someone else to do what you have to do. I want to talk about your book.
Aw.
What inspired you to write From Small Seed, Big Dreams Bloom? What inspired you to write that?
So I kept having different names, and one of them was like becoming her, but then that became a thing. It became like a buzzword where everybody started anniversary, just play on words, and I was just like, I don't wanna do that. And so, I had already written the book for years. It was already there. It was just on my laptop, and I just kept procrastinating, putting it off, not really, I don't know, just never really putting all my energy into it. Then, it was around my 35th birthday, and I was like, "You know what? For my birthday, I think I just want to, like, do a book release. Like, let me just do something that, like, I've been putting off." And funny enough, the way that it came about and how I got my book published, a friend of mine from back when I was in college, she actually helped me with my very first pageant, and she was doing graphic design and all those things. And she didn't have kids, and I always wondered why she connected with Collegiate Moms, but I never got a chance to really ask her that. I found out later on that she actually got pregnant in high school, but she had an abortion. So she had a very strong connection because of that whenever she college, she saw what I was doing, right? Because in her mind, and I agree with her, she was a mom, and so that's why she had that connection. I found out later whenever I reconnected with her. And so, I saw that she had gotten a house, and I was so, happy for her, and she has kids too now. And so she had got online and she was talking about how her mortgage had almost doubled. And she was like, "I think I'm gonna have to get rid of my house, but if anybody has any graphic design work, like, can you please, like, hit me up on Facebook?" And so the I actually already knew about this because I have a mentor. And like I said, I've taught financial literacy classes, budgeting, all these different things. I actually learned all of this under my mentor's leadership whenever I was getting my master's. I was working for and he was like, "You don't know your credit score? Pull it up. You need to learn how to do this. You need to learn
Yeah.
how to do that. You need to learn." So he really like a dad, he came in and was like, "You need to know all of these things about
Yeah.
how to invest in this. Like, why don't you know this stuff?" And I'm like,
I
"I
don't
don't know."
know. Don't
You
ask
know?
me.
And so he charged me with researching and figuring these things out. And so I realized that there were a lot of moms who were lacking that. A lot of students in general lacking information. And so they're going to go off and get jobs and they're not going to contribute to their 401k because they don't even know really what that means if you don't. The sooner the better. And so, anyway, I say all that to say, I taught all these classes, and so it just helped me realize, like, how important it was to have these things, like, in my repertoire. As I was thinking about it, I was like, "You know what? I whenever I talked to her on, Facebook, I was like, "I've been through this. Let me help you." Like, I was working, so I was like, "I need to publish my book, and I know you've done this work. How can I help you? Like, can I do that?" And she was like, "Yes, like, thanks." So, I ended up being her client, and we talked about, like, the whole thing that happened with our house, and again, my mentor had already he put me on game because he retired early and he's done all these things, and he was like, "Yeah, you need to do this, and just so you know, your first mortgage is not gonna be your last mortgage, especially if you got a new house. If it's a new house, the taxes are not figured in just yet. So just know your mortgage is probably gonna almost double." And guess what? It did. It went from 1,200 to 2,200. And thank God, I swear, God is so good because I ended up getting a $12,000 raise right in between all of this stuff. So, I ended up not having to put any money down on my house, which I did, but I had really good credit because of this. Just like I said, from getting my master's and learning all these things. And so I had really good credit. I didn't put anything down because this is a rural area because they're newly building everything out. So I was prepared. So I
Right.
understood where she was coming from. And I just wanted to provide some sort of financial relief as best as
Yeah.
I could. And then I ended up putting other people on to her, and she was like, "You know how many clients I got because of you?" She's like, "One of my clients that you hooked me up with, she's written 5 books and has
Okay, I love
taught."
it.
And I'm like, "Hey, I'm
Look,
just a vessel."
right,
Vessel.
right.
So, she's the one who published my book and everything and got it on Amazon, and so, again, it came from me helping someone, and as I was thinking about the name of the book, I was just like this theme kept popping in my head of planting seeds, and I'm like and the Bible says all you need is faith of a mustard seed. And a friend of mine gave me a mustard seed, and that is what I don't know, just in my mind, I was like, "You know what? That would be a perfect name, and that's very organic, and it's not buzzwordy. That's a real thing that, these things that you may think are small when you're helping someone because again, I'm not rich, but I wanted to help my friend. And whenever I did my book release or whatever, it sold out and the room was filled. And I was just like, you were sitting here afraid all this time. And when it was time, because I believe it all happened in the perfect
In the
timing.
perfect timing.
It showed me what God can do when you just move. So you always have to move. Move your feet, God'll do the rest. He'll bring the people, he'll bring the money, he'll do it all. You just can't run away from his calling. And so that's how I got the name. It's just thinking about how many because people were popping up in my life that I hadn't talked to in years.
Okay, I love that so much, Jasmine. I love the name. I love how it came about. And it started with just planting the seed. You thought you were helping your friend, and which you did, but it turned into your book. I want to actually tell the readers or tell some of our listeners what to expect when they're reading your book.
So it is really a 40-day affirmation journal and guidebook. And the reason that I did it that way, and it has these different prompts in it to just get you thinking. But the reason that I did it that way is what I mentioned earlier is I'm an avid writer. I love to write poems. And so I also was an avid journaler. I actually had one of those password journals. My sister would always try to break into it. It was so funny. But yeah, I'm an avid journaler, and so that was important to me, and then also, like I said, if you change your mind, you change your life, and I'm a very big believer of that, is that I'm the queen of the reframe. It's about how you think about the situation and how much you allow it to weigh you down or lift you up. And so, in the book, it's a lot of powerful prompts, and affirmations, and it gives you a guide on how to reframe the way that you think on a daily basis. And after 40 days, you've built a habit of doing that. And so I thought it was very important to build good habits, habits that are going to help you in the long run. And so, I try to wake up and think of all the things I'm thankful for. And so that was very important in my book, is to allow people to explore what it would be like if you thought of yourself in a way that was positive, because we don't always do that.
No, we don't do it often enough. Jasmine, do you have a copy of the book that you can show us real quick?
You know what? I'd have to run and get it. I have one.
Okay.
I'm gonna run and get in the closet. I can bring it up. I
uh,
can't even get it.
yes.
So this is the book.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so pretty. I love it. Okay, and Jasmine, where can we find it?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. So you just type in "From a Small Seed, Big Dreams Bloom," and it should pop up.
Okay. Jasmine, I absolutely loved our conversation today, and I wish that we can continue, go on. We might have to have you back on for a part 2. I love everything that you are doing in the community, the changes you're making, and you are doing it with so much grace and boldness, okay? I mean, I feel like I have left this interview and I'm like, I need to be doing more. There's no way. There's no way, like, no more excuses, like, step out there, Leah, get it together. And I hope that other moms listening and other women that are listening, I hope they have walked away with a new purpose, a new outlook in life. Jasmine, you have a gift, such an amazing gift. Please, please, please keep watering seeds everywhere you go. Before I let you go, Jasmine, I want to ask you, if for some women who are listening right now, they heard this conversation, they're pumped, they're excited, they're scared. What is the next step? What should they do right now besides picking up that book? What should they do right now to begin to reframe their mind and start watering their own seeds?
Yeah, I say just do it afraid, do it scared, do it unsure. All all it takes is one step and put one foot in front of the other. There's a saying, I don't remember who told me this, but they were like, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." That's just what it is. And so putting that one foot in front of the other, there's nothing different about me than anybody else other than I'm just willing to do the thing afraid, do the thing with fear in my heart and just trusting God and giving it to him because he did not give us the spirit of fear. And so we're supposed to have a sound mind. And so anytime you feel that, just know that is not of God. Like he didn't give us that. And so carry that with you and just take the first step and let God do the rest because he will.
Oh, he sure will. Don't wear the weight of it. Let God do it. That's what he wants us to do as well. It just reminds me of Moses, right? Moses had that stutter and he was just like, I can't speak to him, but no, you can't, but I can. So I love that, Jasmine. This is what you displayed to us today. Before we leave, tell us where to find you, where to follow you.
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's at Collegiate Moms. On Facebook, it's Collegiate Moms Coalition. Um, if you want to follow me personally, it's at J Wiggins, the number two. It's JWIGGINS, the number two. And even if you go on the Collegiate Mom Instagram, you'll see my name in the bio so people can find me there as well. So, and we also have a website. It's the collegiatemomcoalition.org. That's also listed on our Instagram. We mainly are on Instagram. Like that's my place to do all the things. But if you want to leave your contact information, surely go on the website, send a DM. I'm open to all forms of communication.
Perfect. Sounds good. Jasmine, thank you so much for coming, pouring out this well. I really appreciate you so much. Okay, ladies, thank you so much for tuning in. I want you to make sure that you pick up a copy of that book from Jasmine. Read through it. Let us know your feedback. Take a picture, tag us on social media as well. We love, love, love that type of communication. And of course, I want you to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following Woman Witness TV. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Roku, follow us on everywhere you can listen to a podcast. All right, guys. And perhaps you were chosen for such a time as this to write, to tell your story, your truth. Until next time.